You can hear that car on the rev limiter right around the circuit. He was having an absolute crack there. But don't forget, you know, the track has been resurfaced, so the lap time has certainly come from a bit of that. Looking at Stevie J there in the car, he's a young guy in this category, let me tell you. You know, and to be out there having a bit of a crack in old Mustang Sally. The car was really smooth. The car was clean. You can see in the hands, he was just patient. He let the car do the work, let the tyre do the work on this new surface, and bam, there we go, under the lap record straight away.
Looking forward to that rivalry this weekend. Of course, John Bowers back in a Tirana that we saw debut at the Winton round a couple of weeks back here. As we get underway with qualifying, only a 15-minute session for the local class, and I know, I'm going to put it out there right now, there's a Mazda in the field here that has Jason Barkwana all over it.
There's some great little cars in this field, and what I love about this class as well is the combination of different cars. You've got, as you can see right there on screen, a Mazda RX-3, you've got a Datsun 1600, obviously with different engines and configurations, turbos. You've got V8 Falcon out there with Ray Hislop, I noticed. There's Commodores. And then, of course, right throughout the field, you've got the different battles. You've got the HQ holders that are battling for their own prestige in this race. And then there's a number of these smaller, under 2 litre type improved production cars. Little Escorts, little Geminis. There's a Gemini wagon out there of Ebony Coates, a local who's been racing here for many years. So it's good to see these types of cars out there racing.
And what will happen during the weekend, the racing, it gets very, very busy when you consider the practice time this morning of Ray Hislop was 1:15.45. He's 2.5 seconds quicker than second place, but he's nearly 25 seconds quicker than the HQs around here.
25 seconds. So within the 3 or 4 laps, he'll be lapping the traffic, which will just be crazy stuff. There's Ray Hislop's Falcon there. We thought we'd see this car. There's obviously a bit of action right in front of him. That's a good way to start qualifying on the outlap.
And that's Bryce Forward, our Dunlop Series racer in the ex-Nick Halkitis car this weekend for NT Shipping, who's got into the back of one of the cars ahead here by the look of it, right in front of Ray Hislop.
And Bryce Forward, he's driving the what looks like to be an old Commodore Cup style Commodore. He races in the DVS series. He's one of the drivers I look after in terms of the driving standards. So that one would have got the attention of the driving standards officer, I'm sure.
Yes.
Not a good way to start qualifying.
Just 16 years of age, and this is what I was talking about. This is going to be a simulation for Ray Hislop, and he's only in qualifying here, chasing the 120. He'll beat that straight away and goes to 1 with a 1:18.816. Pulled nearly 270 kilometres an hour on the main straight here this morning, but it wasn't on his fastest lap. So time will tell for the Fenner Dunlop entry. Former Bathurst racer back in the 90s with Tim Briggs, I think about 1997. An old Glen Seaton Falcon back in the days. Has raced here over the years in the local class, but doesn't manage to get the mileage out of this car.
A lot of people would recognise there that does look a bit like a V8 supercar compared to something like this Mazda RX-3 that is on screen at the moment. It's got the 0808 headlights, so this is a bit of an era that I grew up in. I had one of these cars as a P-plater, so these certainly bring back some great memories. The old Rotary out there having a bit of a go. Datsun 1600, there's Corollas, there's Celicas, there's turbos, there's 2 litres, 4 cylinders, obviously 1600s out there, but these little RX-3s are quick as well, and they certainly put on a good show. There's a Commodore there, so there's a number of different cars, but this car here, Ray Hislop, it's a bit like a V8 supercar. It was built with that mentality in mind. It was built properly from the ground up, a chassis up. It runs on the groove tyre, the R-Spec tyre out there like they all have, but horsepower-wise, gearbox stiff configuration, very similar to a V8 supercar.
It goes well and truly under his practice time from before, 3/10 quicker. The gap 2.2 seconds back to South Aussie Mark Rutter in the number 2 machine. So it's only early days, but getting real estate around this track is going to be at a premium as they encounter some of the HQ cars as well. They're trying to set their own qualifying times with the faster cars coming around.
One of the challenges here up in Darwin is that, well, certainly on the old surface, and none of us really know what this new surface is going to do. You really had to get that qualifying done in the first 1 or 2 laps. After that, the tyre just dropped off with a great time difference, and that affected your ability to get a quick lap time out of it. So whether and I suspect that it will be the same, it'll be interesting to watch. There'll be V8 supercar teams watching these qualifying sessions to see how the tyre responds to the circuit, to see where the time comes. And I'd say Ray Hislop, it'd be a bit of a struggle for him to get much more out of it in the next few laps because of the traffic, as you can see here.
And sector markers at the bottom of your screen there tell us who's going quicker. The orange PB, obviously, for a personal best sector, and the red if you are slower. And not many of the drivers want to see red sectors on their laps because, as you said, time is at a premium with just 8 minutes and 55 seconds to go.
So Hislop's, he's convinced he's done the job. He's done a 15.1. He's managed to get that out with the traffic. He's was a little bit up on his his first sector in the next lap, but he's pulled the car into pit lane there. They may do a bit of a tyre pressure change, let the tyre pressure out, find a bit of clear road later in the session and have another go. So, but car 2's in second. That's that little RX3 we saw there. There's Bryce Ford on screen. A bit of damage to the front of that car. But look at the combination of the HQs there. Flat out doing their 170 k's an hour, and they're getting swamped by cars doing 270 k's an hour.
They think they're going fast until they get whizzed by down here. And you've got to be careful down the bottom of the screen here at the approach level. That's David Ling going through on screen here in the 14 machine, one of the pioneers of Commodore Cup racing in this part of the world. Of course, it's a combination of the Northern Australian Motorsports Club, and it's an all-in affair. During the year, they'll run in their respective classes, but it's always good for them to run in front of a big crowd this weekend as part of the Sky City Triple Crown, as Michael Ubergain comes to the finish line now, the brother of Adam, who we'll see in Aussie racing cars today.
Look at the camber on the left-hand front of that. It just doesn't even look right.
It doesn't, does it?
It's hanging out of the car. I'd be surprised if that's actually correct. I think he's got a bit of a problem on the left-hand front there. The amount of camber, that's probably 10, 11 degrees by the looks of that. So I don't think that's right.
It's only enough to get him up to 7th place. And a car that's clean swept the events here in the past 2 years. As I said, his brother, Adam's going to race in Aussie racing cars and doing a banging job in that category as well. And here's the replay. Maybe this is where the damage was done, Barks.
This could be a bit of indication. It does seem very strange, the amount of camber on the front left of that Mazda RX-3, because it was a long way out, a lot of camber on that. You'd normally see him run around 6 to 7 degrees, but yeah, very strange.
It looks all right there. Maybe it's happened when they come through the slalom section of the course, the final portion of the circuit, because it looks fine there. Nonetheless, he pushes on. To look down the order, some of the HQs outside the field, in fact, he's pulling up just as I say that, so looks like both sides of the car now looking pretty sad. The Ubergain Transport entering the team out of Toowoomba in Queensland.
Probably wouldn't have noticed it so much in a straight line, but as soon as he put his foot in the brake, he would have realised something's not right here. The car wouldn't turn that well, and you could feel straight away there'd be a bit of a problem. So he's pulled that car off. Uncertain of what the problem is, clearly, but a bit of damage to the left-hand front. As you can see, there's a couple of these smaller, under 2 litre category cars, and they'll have their own little battle. They're fighting with the HQs in there, trying to get a bit of clear track. And and driving a HQ, they're quite fun actually as well. I've driven a lot of those back in the early days of my career. I drove them at Amaroo Park Raceway, Oran Park Raceway, and they're a great little car for the the entry of into motorsport.
The original one-mate class, wasn't it, of the 80s?
The original.
And still around in 2015 as we watch Satchwell heading around the track here in car number 20, currently in 6th position with a 1:20.56. Ray Hislop has been in the pits now for 3 minutes, and I don't think anybody's going to touch that time. Ruder has gone to 2nd place with a 1:16.29. First, the Commodore Cup cars as Bryce Ford, even with that damage, he's back in 9th place, 1:22.17. The first, the HQs, is Gavin Thompson, who's won every event here in HQ class for as far back as I can remember.
Car 2 there, Ruder. He's actually going a little bit quicker in that middle sector. Here he is coming onto the straight in the background there to see if he can improve his lap time. To be able to get within a second of Ray Hislop, and he's actually just gone a bit slower. He's obviously got a bit of traffic there. So to get within a second of Ray Hislop's time is actually quite impressive in amongst that traffic. See Bryce Forward there. He's a local guy, karting graduate this year. He's a very competent go-karter in the last couple of years as being a junior, but he stepped up to being into car racing, straight into the DBS series. He's been doing well in that series, but here this weekend having a drive around the home circuit in this Commodore here.
And great to be back in front of his home crowd. I spoke to him at Winton, and they were excited to race in front of their local crowd. Of course, the DBS not here this weekend, but we'll see them at Townsville at the Castrol Edge 400 up there in coming weeks. Great young guy, lives on the Gold Coast these days, lives with former V8 youth racer Steve Robinson, and one fears when this guy turns 18. He's already a handful now at 17 years of age, but a big talent for the future.
We've got a meatball flag, as it's known, or an orange disc, a mechanical black flag out there at the moment for one of the cars. It possibly is, maybe Ford's car with those parts hanging off it. So certainly the officials don't like to see parts hanging off a car. They'd rather come in. It is one of these HQs. It's hard for these guys in the HQs. They're trying to do their fastest lap and get out of everyone's way. And what you find here on this circuit, particularly a green circuit, if you get a little bit off that racing line, to try and recover it is a challenge.
And that portion of the circuit we can see from here, but the TV doesn't do the justice of how far the track drops away. What's it like through that part?
It's quite challenging. It's quite a fast part of the circuit, so you have to carry the brake through on a little bit of an off-camber section. You try and slow the car down, but then you're trying to keep the speed up as well, because it has a massive effect on the lap time.
Right.
But as a part of the circuit, it's a bit of a three-corner section, and at 7, 8, 9, if you want to call it that, that's what we used to call it. It's a very exciting part of Australian motor racing.
It's claimed a few over the years, that's for sure. We watch car 78 coming around on screen of Playford, currently in 4th position, just coming up to pass Caroline Pendlebury, the wife of Gary Pendlebury, in the Smart NT entry heading down towards Turn 5. They're regular racers in this part of the world. Caroline was a handy rally racer back in the days as well. One of 3 out there this weekend, including Olivia Agostini and Ebony Coates, also this improved production Commodore Cup and HQ field at the 2015 Sky City Triple Crown.
It's interesting to see some of the cars actually are doing their fastest laps later in this session. But majority of the cars in the field at the moment, in the first 2 to 3 laps they've done, that's when they've done their fastest time, which would indicate the circuit's similar to what it used to be, in terms of the fact that, I had a good look at the track yesterday. The surface is great. Look, it's not as porous as what it was. It's not as open, but certainly some of those bumps, it's a lot smoother. It's a good-looking track in terms of this new resurface, and the times are fast. We've seen that already in a couple of categories that we've had out there. The circuit this morning have been very quick in terms of Stephen Johnson under the lap record already in Touring Car Masters.
And it'll only get better as the track evolves over the weekend. The more rubber it goes down. This is its first real hit in anger. They had a Street Machine Festival here a few weeks back, and it's laid some rubber down, but only in certain portions, and certainly not the same compound we'd see on these race cars.
It's laid a lot of rubber from about position 15 on the grid back is where they did their burnout section. So from about grid position 15 back to the last corner is almost black out there. I had a look yesterday when we walked around. It'd be good if you're starting back there on the grid.
Plenty of grip.
In some ways, I think I'd rather still start on the front row.
Here's Simon Bullash, we talked about just before, in the field this weekend, the partner of Ebony Coates. And once again, the Northern Territory well represented, and a track up here. They just continue to spend a lot of money on motor racing up here, whether it's for the V8 Supercars event this weekend, the drag racing during the year, the speedway over the backside of the circuit here. It's quite a phenomenal place to come up and visit.
So with only 1:20 remaining in qualifying now, it's unlikely that Ray Hislop's time is going to be bumped from the top of the leaderboard at a 1:15.1, which is fairly, when you talk about Touring Car Masters, that would be certainly up there in terms of that category as well. And in V8 Supercar land, it's probably only around about 9 seconds a lap slower in a V8 Supercar. So in terms of this category, they're still motoring around this circuit really quick.
So not sure if Hislop will get touched. He's not going to come back out, you'd think, with 50 seconds remaining. 1:15.156, 1.1 seconds clear of Ruder in 2nd place. Michael Nabib in 3rd place, back to Playford, and Maros in 5th.
It's a good combination of cars out there. We should need to find the fastest car in the HQ section, and we'll report that to you, which looks like to be Greg Thompson. Down there around about 27th on the actual grid, but in terms of HQs, he's the pole leader in that one. Over 2 litre, under 2 litre, C right. I'm not sure which car that one is. We'd have to find that later for you over the weekend. But he's managed to be the under 2 litre fastest time as well. Now that's about 7 seconds a lap slower than the over 2 litre cars. So that gives you an indication of what the difference is in the field. But when you look at the timesheets, all the HQs right down the bottom, sure they're in 27 down, but they're all there together and the times are very close.
And the usual suspects in that part of the world is Gavin Thompson, who is the leader in HQs. Craig Wright in under 2 litres. As the checkered flag comes out on this session, so nobody's going to touch Ray Hislop. He'll take another pole position here in the Fenner Dunlop entry and goes under his practice time this point of 1:15. Of course, they've got 24 hours before they're back out on track now. A couple of quick sessions early on Friday morning here at the Sky City Triple Crown. The 87 comes around to wrap up his session of Smith back there in 9th position. Satchwell improves the time, but not the position. He'll stay in position 6 as the flag is out at the end of this session here, and Ray Hislop will hold down pole position for the first of our 3 races over the weekend. Hopefully Michael Ubergang can get this car repaired. I'm sure they will. It's only a bit of work on the front wheels. We check out your qualifying results for the improved production cars here at the Sky City Triple Crown. Ray Hislop, pole position, 1:15.156. Mark Ruder in second place. Michael Nagib in third, back to Tim Playford. Down to Maros Satchwell Ubergang in 8th place, down to Bryce Fullwood in 10th, and the first of the Commodore Cup cars. So plenty still to come here on day one, the Sky City Triple Crown. We're off to a break, but after this, the Aussie Racing Cars, their first practice here at the Sky City Triple Crown.